Have you ever wondered if the Bible accepts or condemns wearing jewelry? Maybe you feel confused or even guilty about enjoying beautiful things like rings, necklaces, or bracelets. You're not alone. Many people struggle with this question because it touches on faith, appearance, and values. The good news is that the Bible offers clear guidance that can help you understand how to approach jewelry in a way that honors your beliefs and brings peace to your heart. Let's explore what the Bible really says so you can feel confident and free in your choices. But wait. Before we get into the video, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so that way you can keep up with the latest updates. Now with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Jewelry is something many people use all over the world. Necklaces, earrings, rings, bracelets, and other items are worn for different reasons. Some people wear them because they look beautiful. Others wear jewelry to show love, friendship, or family connection. In many cultures, wearing jewelry is also part of tradition or celebration. For example, people might wear special rings when they get married or wear earrings during important events. Jewelry can be made from many materials. Some are made of gold, silver, or pearls. Others are made with simple beads, stones, or even plastic. The style, shape, and meaning of jewelry can change from one country to another. But one thing is the same everywhere. People use jewelry to express something, either about who they are, how they feel, or what they believe. This is not just something modern. People have worn jewelry for thousands of years. Even in ancient times, long before today's technology or fashion, people used jewelry in their daily lives. In many old writings and historical records, including the Bible, we find examples of men and women wearing different kinds of jewelry. So, wearing jewelry is not a new idea. It has always been part of human life. With that in mind, a very important question comes up. Does the Bible approve of wearing jewelry or does it speak against it? Some people believe that wearing jewelry is perfectly fine, while others think the Bible teaches that it should be avoided. Both groups often refer to different parts of the Bible to support their views. To answer this question clearly, we need to look at what the Bible actually says. We will examine different passages from the Old and New Testaments. These parts of the Bible will help us understand how jewelry was used, how people reacted to it, and what God's message is about it. Only by looking at all the evidence can we form a full and honest answer to this question. When people read the Bible and think about jewelry, many wonder whether the Bible supports or rejects its use. Some Christians believe that wearing jewelry is a personal choice, while others believe that true followers of God should avoid it completely. This difference in opinion has led to many discussions, both in churches and among individuals who want to live according to what the Bible teaches. It is important to remember that not all questions in the Bible are answered with a simple yes or no. Some topics require careful study of several verses in different parts of the Bible. Jewelry is one of those topics. In some passages, it seems to be mentioned in a positive way. In other passages, it appears as something that people are warned about. Because of that, the Bible's view on jewelry is not always clear at first glance. Some people look at the cultural context. They argue that jewelry in Bible times had different meanings than it does today. For example, in ancient times, jewelry could show wealth, social status, or be used in religious ceremonies. Today, people may wear jewelry mainly for beauty or personal expression. Because of these differences, some Christians think that we need to understand the Bible's message in its original context before deciding what it means for us today. Others believe that the Bible gives general principles that should apply in all times. They say that if the Bible warns against using jewelry in certain ways, then it is best to avoid it completely. They focus on verses that talk about modesty, pride, and not drawing attention to physical appearance. For them, wearing jewelry may seem like going against those biblical values. So, does the Bible accept jewelry or reject it? To answer that, we need to examine both the positive and negative examples found in Scripture. This includes how jewelry was used by God's people, how it was described by the prophets and apostles, and what lessons we can learn from those examples. The goal is not to take one or two verses and build a full belief from them. Instead, it is better to look at the Bible as a whole and understand the purpose behind each instruction. That way, we can avoid confusion and make decisions based on the full message of the Bible. One of the first clear examples of jewelry in the Bible appears in the story of Rebekah, found in Genesis 24. This chapter tells how Abraham sent his servant to find a wife for his son Isaac. The servant prayed for a sign from God to help him find the right woman. When he met Rebekah and saw her kindness, he believed that God had answered his prayer. As a sign of respect and thankfulness, he gave her jewelry, specifically a gold nose ring and 2 gold bracelets, Genesis 24 verse 22. Later in the chapter, more jewelry is given to Rebekah when the servant explains his mission to her family. Genesis 24 verse 53 says, "Then the servant brought out jewelry of silver, jewelry of gold, and clothing, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother." This act was part of the marriage tradition at that time. Giving valuable gifts showed honor, wealth, and the seriousness of the marriage proposal. This story shows that jewelry was not just used for decoration. It was also a symbol of blessing, respect, and covenant. In this case, the Bible does not criticize the use of jewelry. Instead, it presents the gifts as part of a good and honorable action. Rebekah was chosen by God, and the jewelry was part of the joyful process of her becoming Isaac's wife. Some people use this example to say that wearing jewelry is acceptable, especially when it is connected to family, marriage, or cultural traditions. They point out that if jewelry was wrong, the servant, who was following God's guidance, would not have given it to Rebekah. However, others say this story does not give permission for people today to wear jewelry in any way they want. They argue that the jewelry in this case had a clear purpose within a specific tradition, and it was not being used to show off or seek attention. From this perspective, they believe the lesson is not about the jewelry itself, but about the heart behind the action. Even with these different views, one thing is clear. The Bible includes positive examples of jewelry when it is used in the right way. Rebekah's story helps us understand that jewelry was part of the life and culture of people who trusted in God. It also shows that the Bible does not always speak against it. Enjoying the video so far? Then click the like button so that way I can keep making more of these only for you. As we continue through the Bible, we see that jewelry was common among the people of Israel. Men, women, and even children wore it. In the book of Exodus, we read that the Israelites had earrings, rings, and other valuable items when they left Egypt. These items were most likely given to them by the Egyptians as part of God's promise to bless them before their departure. Exodus 12 verses 35 to 36. However, one of the most well-known stories involving jewelry is found in Exodus 32. After Moses went up Mount Sinai to receive the 10 Commandments, the people grew impatient. They asked Aaron to make a god for them. Aaron told them to take off their gold earrings and bring them to him. The people did this, and Aaron used the gold to make a golden calf. Then the people worshipped it, which was a serious sin against God. This moment shows that jewelry by itself was not the problem. The issue was how it was used. The people turned something valuable into an idol. Instead of honoring God, they used their gold to create something false. Because of this, God's anger burned against them, and many suffered the consequences of their actions. This story is often used as a warning. It shows how something good, like jewelry, can be misused. The Israelites had been blessed with gold and other treasures, but they used those blessings in a way that disrespected God. The lesson here is not that jewelry is always wrong, but that people must be careful not to let physical things take God's place in their hearts. Later, in Exodus 35, we see jewelry used in a very different way. This time, Moses asks the people to bring offerings to help build the tabernacle, a special place where God's presence would stay. Many of the people brought gold rings, earrings, and other valuable items. These offerings were used for God's glory, not for selfish purposes. In this case, giving jewelry was an act of worship and obedience. These two examples show a contrast. In one case, jewelry was used to make an idol and disobey God. In the other, it was given freely to support God's work. The difference is in the purpose and the heart behind the action. From these stories, we learn that the Bible does not treat jewelry as evil on its own. Instead, it depends on how people use it. If it leads someone away from God, it becomes a problem. But if it is used to honor God or help others, it can be seen in a positive light. This helps us understand that the Bible's view of jewelry is not just about the object itself, but about the attitude and intention behind it. One of the most symbolic uses of jewelry in the Bible is found in Ezekiel chapter 16. In this passage, God speaks through the prophet Ezekiel and compares the city of Jerusalem to a young woman whom he cared for and raised. This is not a literal story, but a metaphor that describes how God treated his people with love, patience, and generosity. In verses 11 to 13, God says that he adorned this woman with jewelry. "I adorned you with jewelry. I put bracelets on your arms and a necklace around your neck, and I put a ring on your nose, earrings on your ears, and a beautiful crown on your head. So you were adorned with gold and silver. Your clothes were of fine linen and costly fabric and embroidered cloth." This poetic description shows that God gave his people the very best, including beautiful clothing and jewelry. This example is important because it shows that jewelry in this context is used as a symbol of God's care and blessing. He is not angry about the jewelry. In fact, he is the one giving it. It represents beauty, dignity, and honor. It shows how much God loved his people and wanted to give them everything they needed, even things that were beautiful and valuable. However, the passage continues with a warning. After receiving all these gifts, the woman, representing the people of Jerusalem, became proud. She misused what God gave her and became unfaithful. She used her beauty and jewelry not to honor God, but to attract attention and follow sinful desires. This led to judgment and punishment. So once again we see a pattern. Jewelry itself is not condemned. In fact, God used it to show his love and generosity. But when the gifts led to pride and sin, that's when the problem began. The focus is not on the jewelry but on what it represents and how it is used. This passage teaches that even good things can be misused when people forget the one who gave them. God wants his people to remember that blessings are meant to lead to thankfulness and faithfulness, not pride or selfish behavior. So, in this case, jewelry was part of a beautiful gift from God, but it became a problem only when the people's hearts turned away from him. From the story in Ezekiel, we learn that jewelry can be used to express love, beauty, and blessing. But it also comes with responsibility. People are called to use every gift from God in a way that honors him. The deeper message is about the heart, not just the appearance. Moving from the Old Testament to the New Testament, we find some important instructions about jewelry, especially in letters written by the Apostle Paul and other early church leaders. These instructions focus mostly on modesty, humility, and inner beauty rather than outward appearance. In 1 Timothy 2 verse 9, Paul writes to Timothy, giving advice about how women should dress and behave in the church. He says, "I also want the women to dress modestly, with decency and propriety, adorning themselves, not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes." This verse does not forbid jewelry completely, but it encourages modesty and warns against showing off wealth or status through expensive or flashy jewelry. Similarly, in 1 Peter 3 verses 3 to 4, the Apostle Peter tells women, "Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight." This passage focuses on the importance of inner character rather than physical decoration. These New Testament instructions emphasize a key idea. The heart and attitude behind how people present themselves are more important than outward appearance. Wearing jewelry is not described as sinful by itself, but it should not be used to promote pride, vanity, or distraction from spiritual values. The early church lived in a culture where showing wealth through jewelry was common. The leaders wanted to encourage believers to focus on humility, love, and good deeds instead of outward riches or beauty. This teaching challenges people to think carefully about why they wear jewelry and what message it sends. In summary, the New Testament does not completely reject jewelry, but it does warn against using it in ways that lead to pride or selfishness. Instead, believers are encouraged to seek inner beauty and a humble heart, which please God more than any piece of jewelry ever could. This teaches us that the Bible's view on jewelry depends a lot on the purpose and attitude behind it, especially in how we express our faith and character to others. In the New Testament, the Apostle Peter gives important advice about how believers, especially women, should think about beauty and how they present themselves. In 1 Peter 3 verses 3 to 4, Peter talks about what true beauty really means. He says that real beauty is not about wearing jewelry, fancy clothes, or having elaborate hairstyles. Instead, it is about what is inside a person, their character and spirit. Peter writes, "Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight." This means that the most valuable kind of beauty lasts forever and cannot be seen with the eyes, but is felt in the heart. This teaching helps us understand that qualities like kindness, patience, humility, and peace are more important to God than how someone looks on the outside. A gentle and quiet spirit shows strength and maturity, and this is what God truly values. Peter is encouraging believers to focus on developing these inner qualities instead of spending too much time or energy on their outward appearance. It is important to notice that Peter does not say that wearing jewelry or dressing nicely is a sin. He simply warns against putting too much importance on physical appearance or trying to attract attention by showing off expensive jewelry or fancy clothes. The main point is that people should not judge their worth or the worth of others by what they wear or how they look. Peter's message also helps us avoid pride or competition about appearances. In some cultures, people might use jewelry or clothing to show that they are richer or more important than others. Peter reminds us that these things do not matter to God. What matters is the condition of the heart and the way a person treats others. This advice fits with other parts of the New Testament, where humility and simplicity are encouraged. The early Christians lived in a society where many people used jewelry and clothing to display wealth and status. Peter's words challenge believers to stand apart from that by showing love, humility, and good character instead. In practical terms, this means that wearing jewelry is a personal choice. But it should never become a way to feel better than others or to distract from the important work of being kind and faithful. True beauty is a reflection of God's love working inside a person's heart. In summary, Peter teaches that inner beauty is more important than outward beauty. Jewelry and clothing can be part of a person's appearance, but they are not the most valuable thing. God cares about the heart, the spirit, and how people treat one another. This helps believers understand that their true worth comes from who they are in God's eyes, not from what they wear. Understanding the Bible's teaching about jewelry requires looking closely at the cultural context of the times when the Bible was written. Jewelry was a common part of life in many ancient cultures, including those around Israel and in the early Christian world. It often had different meanings and uses than what we might think of today. In biblical times, jewelry was not only worn for personal decoration. It also showed important things like family heritage, social status, wealth, and sometimes even religious beliefs. For example, wearing certain types of jewelry could identify someone as belonging to a particular tribe or group. It could also be a sign of wealth or power. This means jewelry had a meaning beyond just beauty or fashion. In some cultures, jewelry was used as part of marriage ceremonies, just like in the story of Rebecca. Giving jewelry was a way to show respect and commitment. In other cases, jewelry was part of religious rituals, worn by priests or leaders to symbolize their role. These meanings helped shape how jewelry was viewed and whether it was acceptable or not. The Bible reflects these cultural realities. When it talks about jewelry, it often addresses how people used it in their social or religious life, not just the physical objects themselves. For example, the warning against idolatry in Exodus 32 is not about gold jewelry but about using it to make a false god. Similarly, New Testament warnings about modesty address attitudes toward showing off wealth or status, not jewelry itself. Today, the meaning of jewelry can be very different. For many people, jewelry is mostly about personal style, fashion, or sentimental value. It might remind someone of a loved one or be a gift with special meaning. Because the cultural context has changed so much, applying biblical teachings about jewelry requires careful thought and understanding. This cultural background helps explain why the Bible's message about jewelry is sometimes complex or seems to change in different parts. The key is to understand what jewelry represented for the people at that time and how they used it. This helps believers decide how to apply these lessons in their own lives today. In summary, cultural context is very important for understanding the Bible's teaching on jewelry. Jewelry was not just decoration, it carried social, religious, and symbolic meanings. Recognizing these helps us better understand why the Bible sometimes praises jewelry and other times warns about it. Today, people have many different opinions about jewelry and how it fits with their faith. Some see it as a harmless way to express themselves or celebrate important moments like weddings, birthdays, or anniversaries. Others worry that jewelry might distract from spiritual values or encourage pride and materialism. For many Christians, jewelry is simply a personal choice. They believe that what matters most is the heart and attitude behind wearing it. If someone wears jewelry to honor God, to feel confident, or to remember a special relationship, then it can be a positive thing. It can even be a way to share faith, like wearing a cross or a symbol with religious meaning. However, some Christians prefer to avoid jewelry because they want to focus more on humility and simplicity. They may feel that wearing jewelry could lead to attention on outward appearance rather than inner character. For them, avoiding jewelry is a way to show dedication to living a modest and God-focused life. Churches and Christian communities often have different traditions about jewelry. In some churches, jewelry is common and accepted. In others, especially more conservative groups, wearing jewelry is discouraged or even forbidden. These differences usually come from how each community interprets the Bible and understands the role of appearance in faith. The variety of opinions shows that the Bible does not give a strict rule about jewelry. Instead, it offers principles that believers need to apply carefully in their own situations. These include avoiding pride, focusing on inner beauty, being modest, and not letting material things control their lives. Modern technology and culture also influence how people view jewelry today. Jewelry can be very expensive and sometimes seen as a status symbol. Social media and advertising can make people want to wear more jewelry to fit in or look successful. Christians need to be aware of these pressures and think about their own motivations when choosing to wear jewelry. In the end, the question is not just about jewelry itself but about how believers live out their faith. Jewelry can be part of a respectful and humble lifestyle or a source of distraction and pride. Each person must decide how to balance these things in a way that honors God and respects others. After examining many parts of the Bible carefully, it becomes clear that the question of whether the Bible accepts or condemns jewelry is not a simple yes or no. The Bible shows jewelry in many different ways depending on the time period, the purpose it was used for, and most importantly, the attitude and heart of the people involved. In some stories, jewelry is seen as a good and honorable gift. For example, in the story of Rebecca, jewelry is given as a sign of respect, blessing, and commitment. Jewelry represents beauty and value, and it is used to show love and honor. Similarly, in the book of Ezekiel, God describes giving jewelry as a symbol of his care and blessing for his people. These examples show that jewelry itself is not sinful or wrong. However, the Bible also includes warnings about jewelry being misused. The story of the golden calf in Exodus reveals how jewelry became part of a sinful act when the Israelites used their gold to create an idol to worship. This shows that the problem is not the jewelry itself but how people use it. When jewelry becomes an object of pride, idolatry, or distraction from God, it leads to serious consequences. In the New Testament, the focus shifts more toward the attitude behind wearing jewelry rather than the physical jewelry itself. The apostles Paul and Peter encourage believers to focus on inner beauty, qualities like humility, gentleness, and a quiet spirit, rather than outward appearance. They warn against wearing jewelry or clothes in a way that draws attention to wealth or status. Instead, the emphasis is on modesty and good character. This means that jewelry is not condemned outright but should be worn with the right heart. If wearing jewelry causes pride, vanity, or distracts someone from their faith, then it is not in line with biblical teachings. On the other hand, if jewelry is worn modestly, respectfully, and with good intentions, such as honoring God, celebrating relationships, or expressing personal style, it can be acceptable. Because the Bible does not give one clear rule about jewelry, believers must decide for themselves how to approach this issue. It is important to reflect on personal motivations. Why do I want to wear jewelry? Does it help me show respect to God and others? Or does it make me focus too much on myself and my appearance? People live in different cultures and situations, so what is appropriate for one person or community may not be for another. Understanding the cultural background of the Bible helps us see why jewelry is sometimes praised and sometimes warned against. It helps us apply biblical principles wisely in today's world. In summary, the Bible neither fully accepts nor fully condemns jewelry. Instead, it teaches important principles about humility, the condition of the heart, and the right use of material things. Jewelry itself is neutral. Its spiritual value depends on the purpose, attitude, and heart of the person who wears it. This balanced view encourages believers to respect each other's choices about jewelry and to focus on what matters most: growing in faith, love, and good character. It reminds us that true beauty comes from within, from a life dedicated to God. Do you accept jewelries in your life or are you against them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.